Story time. Flashback. I was reminded today of this particular incident in my life when I was younger and I was still in the Air Force. I was dating this guy. I was stationed in Korea. We could work together and we reconnected in London in the UK. And we went out to order Chinese food. And it was an interesting dynamic because he had known me from before. And here we are at this Chinese restaurant. And I'm looking at the menu and I already know what I want. I know what I want, but it's not on the menu. And see, I was raised, my father had a restaurant. Growing up, he had a pizzeria or sub shop. My dad was the chef of the house. And we were raised that we would go to restaurants and my dad would ask, hey, could you do something outside of the menu? And there's a deeper lesson in all of this. And I realized why I think outside the box, why and how I was raised to have creative ideas, to be more resourceful, to ask for what I want, not just accept what is given. So when we would go to the restaurants when we were kids, my dad would always ask, hey, is it possible the chef could do something else other than what was on the menu? And back in those days, and maybe even still today, I know I've still been to restaurants and had this happen with numerous people that I've been with. The chef was always very grateful to be able to be creative and provide something other than the mundane of the menu that was right there. You know, sometimes after a while, even the chef gets bored with its own, hey, we only got to cook the same things all the time. And it does depend on the inventory of the kitchen and all that. And I understand that because my father had a restaurant. And it's very common in Europe as well, because I lived in Naples, Italy. I lived in northern Italy, and they love to provide. They love to show their expression, because the hands are an expression and an extension of the heart and the lungs. So when we create with our hands, we're doing it from our heart space, but not everybody has that mindset. So as a chef, you are always giving of your heart. You are providing whatever's in your heart because your hands are expressing that. And that's in everything in life. So I'm with my friend in the UK and we go to the Chinese restaurant and I proceeded to ask, is it possible you could prepare this particular meal, or maybe I'm not seeing it on the menu? And my friend proceeded to turn around and say, why, Lana, can't you ever just order anything that's on the menu? And in that moment, I had my own epiphany and realization that not everybody thinks outside the box. Not everybody can see beyond the confines of their limitations. Menus are limited. They're like a box. And when you place yourself in the confines of this is all that is provided to me, and you accept that, you never know what is truly available to you in life. Life is constantly offering up opportunities. But if your mindset is so confined, so restricted, and you've been conditioned and programmed to think these are your only options, then that's all you'll ever know. That's all you'll ever show up to. That's all you'll ever have available to you. And that's very nearsighted. It's very short-sighted. It takes away your ability to try things that you never knew existed. So when my friend proceeded to say that to me, when they said, Lana, why can't you ever just order what's on the menu? What I heard was, why can't you just go along to get along? Why can't you just keep it simple? Why are you so complicated? Why do you make things difficult? Because of his limited mindset, not because of mine. To me, the world is your oyster, and the oyster overflows. The oyster's not confined to the shell. But many would see it that way. I also heard, I don't know how to think outside the box. I heard in this person speaking that they themselves have been so confined in their mentality, they didn't see beyond what was presented to them. They didn't ever consider that there were other options. Because life is not a menu. Life is not about what's presented to you, but there's more to it than that. Can you think outside the box? Can you see more than what's presented to you? If you're given a menu, are you willing to look around and go, okay, I know what I want, versus the process of elimination? Many people I go out to dinner with, and I'm very picky about where I eat because I want to make sure that whatever I put in my body is coming from a healthy source. I want to know where it's coming from. I ask about ingredients because if you don't know, ignorance is not bliss. You can't just assume that everything is in your best interest, because a lot of places, they cut corners. They put cheap fillers in their foods. They use rancid, bad oils. They use GMOs. If you don't ask, you don't know. And that's always the key, to know and not assuming. Because what does assuming do? It gets that age-old ass out of you and me. It puts you in a position of trust in something that maybe you shouldn't trust. And I've been known to take things for granted, being that I'm allergic to gluten and other things, that if I don't ask, I end up finding out the hard way, and that's not fun. To have an incident of, I thought this, I assumed this. I had one near case situation recently where my friend and I went to a smoothie bowl place, and I assumed, because all over their storefront it said gluten-free, it said dairy-free, it said vegan, it said all those buzzwords. And when we ordered, I looked down and the menu said something about gluten-free, and it implied that you had to ask. And I forgot to ask when I was placing my order. So when I got my order and I started to open it up, I thought, you know what, I better go back and double check. So when I went back, the woman just assumed I should know to ask. She didn't actually ask. And because she was unfamiliar with the trend being something bigger, and this was a smaller town, she said, oh, well, you're supposed to ask. And eventually I was able to get her to understand I didn't, I assumed because of the way that it's presented. That was on me, as well as it was on her to assume. So we have to learn through communication how we can handle and evolve to grow, to know better. Because when you know better, you can do better. You can't just assume. Always ask questions. Don't feel embarrassed if you have to ask a question, no matter what it is in life. If you don't ask the questions, it's only at your own risk that you're proceeding forward, because ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance can be life-threatening in all cases. If you're unsure of the ingredients in something that you're going to partake in, you should be asking the questions. Don't just go along to, oh my gosh, you're making a problem, you're causing a scene, you're embarrassing me. In the very beginning of all of my health challenges with food allergies, the first things people around me would say is, well, I don't have a problem, it's only her. Like they were embarrassed that I made them look bad, when in reality, that had nothing to do with them. If they were confident in what they were eating, they wouldn't have a problem and have to present a disclaimer of, I'm not a problem, I can eat anything. What that really says, if you can listen between the lines, because most people will actually reveal themselves through how they speak about themselves. When you say, I don't have a problem, she's the problem, you're trying to project and take the attention off of yourself, because that person is taking their health into their own personal hands, whereas the other person is basically feeling threatened by it. Doesn't like the fact that that person cares enough about their body that other person is actually feeling threatened by them questioning. Because if they actually hear something, oh my gosh, maybe I have to take accountability. When someone else is accountable, it shines light on another person's inability to be accountable or their lack of responsibility in their own lives. And so this is one of the things that you learn if you're ever changing your lifestyle, your diet, your friends, the people you hang out with, your ever-changing belief system. It should be evolving and growing. People will come in and people will go out. And that's a sad truth of life. But people are meant to be in your life for a season, and they're there for a reason. Doesn't matter how long it is. Just cherish it. And it is, like death, change is like death. You have to honor and mourn the goodbyes. And also celebrate the hellos. Because when one person walks out, another has space to walk in. Just like we would say in Italian, quando si chiude una porta, si apre una padrone. What that means is, when one small door closes, a bigger one opens. So life is going to present you with constant challenges. The question is whether or not you are so narrow-minded and rigid in your dogmatic beliefs that you are confined to and imprisoned in your own little menu of limitation. See, the real way to reclaim your power is to do the inner work. And the powers that be would rather you not know this. Because when you reclaim your power, you're a threat to them. So the real work is done within. And they don't want you to know this is how you reclaim it. You want to reclaim your power? Be willing to look within. Don't go without and don't project it on other people. Recognize how rigid your belief system is. Because the body, again, is always demonstrating what's going on up in the mind. The body is giving you all the signs, the signals, and the guidance, and the direction you're meant to go. If you're not going to the bathroom a few times a day, a couple times a day, at least once a day, you're holding on to some shit. And that's metaphorically and physically. And emotionally. Again, everything starts in the mind. And if your mind is so confined to a menu, limitations, a list, how do you think your life is ever going to be? You're not living a full, rich life. You're actually restricted and confined by your own mind. Life's a lot more than we see with these two eyes. Can we see past the limitations and the lies? The illusions, the delusions, the stories we create, they all begin up here. And it's you that does make those stories. The more we recognize we are the masters of our lives, we slow down, take a deep breath, become present in the moment, we become aware of the mind, the thoughts. And instead of reacting to situations, we can take that deep breath and respond in awareness, mastering our mind through the power of the breath can master your life. It's up to you. So in conclusion of that story with my dearest friend, and I haven't heard from them in a long time, back when I was in the military, the whole idea that I can't order from just the menu is just basically me knowing what I want. And it's not on anybody's presentation, here's what's available to you. That's something my heart and soul knows on the grander, larger scheme of life. And that's my question to you. Do you know what it is you're here to do? What you want out of life? The legacy you want to leave? Because if you don't, it becomes clearer in the simplest little things of life. When you go out to eat with your friends, notice, how do you order? Do you take the menu and go through a process of elimination? Well, I know I don't want this, I don't want that, and I don't want that. Or do you seek out through the list, I know exactly what I want. Let's see if they offer it. And then if they don't offer it, how flexible are you? How courageous and willing are you to ask? To think outside the box means you're not confined by the lines. You're not confined, and that's powerful. That's reclaiming your power on another level. A lot of people don't necessarily want to confront their own minds. And that's where the battle is being waged. Right up in here. When you look around the world, what's going on right now, it's been going on for a very long time. It's just that people are seeing it more clearly because it's amplified. And the reason it's amplified, because attention goes where energy is flowing on the collective level. Our focus is so much on the negative because for those of you who have been tuned in to mainstream media, to the television, channeling, programming, spellcasting, you have to admit, when was the last time you watched the news and they gave you some form of powerful, beautiful, positive news? Something that actually provided you service, that uplifted you, that felt like support, that felt like you had something to look forward to. Why are we so in fear of missing out, FOMO, that we would tune in to all these media news organizations, even social media, unless it provides us something to look forward to? I want you to question that. Why do we tune in to the negative? Why do we hone in on what's not working? Why don't we focus on what it is that's bringing us joy? Why don't we work on solutions? If that's not working, walk away from it. It's time to create the new. Get away from the menu presented to you. Parents, I know you're listening. It really sucks, but it's time for communities to come together to educate the children. These school systems are not here to serve us. They're here to indoctrinate. They're here to bring up the next generation to support this agenda that is demeaning, demoralizing, dehumanizing, fear-mongering, creating followers, not leaders. And a lot of us were born for this time to step up and be leaders in our own right ways. We're here to create the new. We're not here to go along to get along. Getting along is when you recognize you understand yourself, you can communicate effectively, you know your power. You should first have that relationship with yourself before you go seeking it out with anybody else. But relationship, again, will always present an opportunity for you and me to grow and evolve. And it's a beautiful thing, this thing we call life. We're playing the game. How well are you playing it? Do you know the rules? Are you fighting them? Or are you going along with them? Or maybe walking away from them? We have an opportunity at all times. Nobody realizes that we have 3 options. We don't have to choose or pick a side. Not at all. This or that, those are the 2 choices. The third one is not participating. The third one is being neutral and saying, oh, okay, I see that. I see what's going on. And sometimes the hardest thing is to walk away and letting it crumble, letting it dissolve in its own way. It will happen. But more so, it'll happen when communities and people come together to support one another. It will happen when we no longer feel the need to gotta fight it. When you fight the system, you feed the system. When you fight it, you're feeding it. Think about it. They need that because it feeds on fear, it feeds on anger, it feeds on the lower vibrational energies, the emotions. When you're emotional, you become irrational. You make poor decisions. It's a fact of life. You have to be able to claim yourself, calm yourself, claim yourself, and take ownership of your emotions. They're all beneficial and they're all there to signal you in the direction you're meant to go. If it gets you heated, you need to sit with, what is that rubbing in me? What old wound is that bringing up? A lot of us have been, we have been the victim. We want to fight for the underdog. But do we need to fight? Do we really? Freedom has to be defended, don't get me wrong. But does it require words like disobedience? Does it require fighting something that isn't working? And be very cautious of the words you choose, because they cast spells, and they taught us and indoctrinated us into using these particular words against ourselves. So when we use the same words that we learned that actually disempowered us, and we use those words to describe ourselves, we're disempowering ourselves more. Which is why it's so important to choose our words wisely, because we are casting our own spells through these words. And when you know thyself well, you can come out on the other side so much stronger, because you will recognize within another person the shadows which you have delved deep in within yourself. Hey, when you own your shit, you're going to see it. You're going to spot it. You're going to say, you know what? I know that. I know that behavior because I've been there, done that. And for many of us who have had toxic relationships we've healed from, once you've been in those environments, there ain't no going away from it and not seeing it. We can spot it even more so. We see those signs. And those of you out there who've done the healing work and you see it, don't deny it. Be like, okay, I see where this is going. I know for myself, I'm not looking to go back to things that didn't work. I want to do things that improve my life, that add value. And I want to add value to others as well. Because that's the whole purpose of humanity, for us to be in unity. Humans in unity, creating together, that's what it's about. But they've pulled the age-old tactic of divide and conquer. Pitting us against one another is the easiest way to take all the attention off of them. Because then, again, just like the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, you're no longer looking at the actual perpetrators. You're fighting against your fellow man and woman, children, your fellow humans. We all want to feel connected. We all want to feel love. But if we're not even feeling that for ourselves, it's going to be real hard to find it for another. Everything starts with self. Everything starts in the mind. And the truth is, you have to own yourself. Calm yourself. Claim yourself. Return to your source. So, next time you're out and you're looking at a menu, ask yourself how limited you feel. And this is everything in life. Do you see what's available to you? Or do you only see what you can't have? The pendulum swings. We live in a life of duality, of polarity. For this, there's that. The good and the bad. The black and the white. True, the false. And when we're in that neutral space, it appears that neither exists. But it's the imbalance that creates the disparity. It creates the contrast of one versus the other. That is what imbalance is. And right now, we have the biggest imbalance on the planet. The battle of the mind. They go in through all 5 of your senses and they penetrate. You may not want to believe that you're influenced or brainwashed or any type of mind control. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to believe that. Of course not. But can you honestly look in the mirror and recognize what thoughts are yours or the ones you adopted because, well, you heard it enough times, it became true for you? Or even think about how you go shopping and you're presented with the fashion of the season. You may not like a certain style, but over time, if you see it enough times, you may say, now I need to have it. Those are just simple little influences. You know, you see your favorite artist, you see your favorite musician, actor, and they're wearing something you have to have. That's influence. That is how they get you to follow, to buy, to subscribe to whatever it is they want you to. Same thing with food. What's the latest trend? We are only confined by what goes on in our mind. And the body's always telling on us. It's always telling on the mind, and it's telling you what doesn't align. When the body's in dis-ease, discomfort, it's because the mind is rejecting what aligns to the soul. It's all connected. If you really want to heal it, you gotta feel it. And when you feel it fully and become an awareness of your own mind and your own thoughts, you get to lean in and confront them. There's an opportunity, and everything that triggers you is an opportunity for healing, for growth. But only you can do that. So again, the menu, is it limited for you? Or is it limitless? So much love, many blessings. Have a wonderful evening.